ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यो एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमो। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. All of you are most welcome in our today's class. We have already completed the book Spiritual Connection. Now, for today, we have selected a very interesting topic from 4th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. The topic is the story of King Vena. We shall hear about the topic today. And there is an important notice for this class. This English class will remain postponed from today onwards for 1.5 months. And we shall restart this English class hopefully at the 3rd week of February. And the topic will be Ramayana. We shall start a course on Ramayana, and I think I will follow the book written by Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj. His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj wrote a Ramayana. 7 kanda is there. So we may follow that book. But the class will be restarted at 3rd and 4th week of February. Okay. So now we will start today's topic, story of King Vena. King Vena was the son of King Anga. And who was Anga? Anga was in the lineage of King Dhruva. He was the descendant of Dhruva Maharaj, and Anga was very pious king, very religious, very gentle, and he was, of course, a saintly personality. But unfortunately, Anga has no son. He was very much worried for having no son. The expert Brahmins of his kingdom advised the king to perform some sacrifices. And King Anga arranged for a very great sacrifice, namely Ashwamedha Yagga. Ashwamedha Yagga means in that sacrifice, horse was offered. In Gomedha sacrifice, Gomedha Yagga, cow was offered. Why these animals were offered? Surely not for eating the fleshes of the animals. Actually, The old animals were offered in the sacrifice, and those animals, they got new body then and there. Actually, it was also the test of power of the Brahmin. At that time, the Brahmins, they were so powerful that only by chanting some mantra, they could give new body, new fresh body to those animals. In this way, performing some sacrifices, the animals were benefited as well as the Ritik, he was also benefited. But in Kali Yuga, there are no Brahmin practically with that standard of purity, and they also have no power to pronounce the mantra properly. So in this Kali Yuga, those sacrifices are totally forbidden. Then which sacrifice we should follow in this Yuga? It is Sankirtan Yagga. This Yagga is allowed for the Kali Yuga because for executing this particular Yagga, no such purity and skill for pronouncement are needed. So Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced this special sacrifice for this degraded time. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, it is said that Krishna Varnam Tisha Akrishnam Shango Pango Astra Parshadam Yogai Sankirtana Prayoi Yayantihi Shumedhasa. In that verse, it is clearly declared that in Kali Yuga, Lord himself would appear in the disguise of a devotee, and then Lord will introduce a special sacrifice called Sankirtan sacrifice. And the mantra which would be used in that sacrifice is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. With this mantra, Sankirtan Yagga is executed at each corner of the world by dint of Srila Prabhupada's mercy. Anyway, King Anga, for having a son, performed Ashwamedha Yagga. But surprisingly, no demigod came at this sacrifice. Neither they received their share, nor they gave any benediction to the king. Why demigods did not come to that sacrifice? Brahmins inquire about it, and then they told to the king that, my dear king, you are very innocent in this life, but in the previous life, you have done some sinful activities. For that reason, no demigod came to your sacrifice. Then king asked, what should I do for having a son? The Brahmins advised, my dear king, you should sacrifice a special yagga. You should execute a special yagga to satisfy Vishnu. And if Vishnu came to your sacrifice, then all the demigods would follow Vishnu and they would also come to your sacrifice. So King Anga, he performed a special sacrifice and he satisfied Lord Vishnu, and by the mercy of Lord Vishnu, King Anga got a son, namely King Vena. Vena. Vena, from his very childhood, was very cruel in nature. Not only he was very cruel, but also he was very irreligious and disrespectful to sadhu and shastra. Bena used to go to the forest and he used to kill the innocent deers, peacocks mercilessly without any reason. It was his game to kill the innocent animals. And what to speak of animals? Bena even killed his little friends while playing when little disagreement occurs. Very mercilessly, Vena killed his little friends also. So we can consider how cruel Ven was. Now the question arises. Vena was also in the lineage of Dhruva Maharaj, and his father was very saintly personality. And Bena appeared as the mercy of Lord Vishnu. Then why Bena was so cruel? What is the mystery behind it? One thing very interesting, the grandfather of Bena was death personified. Who was and who is the personification of death? Have you any idea, anyone? Please raise your hand. Who is the personification of death? No idea? All of you know it. Personification of death is Yamraj. Okay. So Bena happened to be the grandson of Yamraj. And who is the Yamraj? What is his spiritual identity? He is Mahajan, pure devotee of Krishna, very great devotee, Mahajan. Who were 12 Mahajan? What is the verse? Santosh Prabhu, what is the verse? Okay, Tapan Prabhu, you raise your hand firstly. Unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam. Shambhu Narada Shambhu Kumaro Kapila Manu Kodlado Janako Bhishma Bayasaki Boli Maharaj Bayasaki Baya.
Bolir Boyar Sakir Bayam. Okay, thank you. So these are the 12 Mahajans. Yomraj is one of them. So how the grandson of Yomraj could be so cruel, could be so irreligious? Either from the father's side or from the mother's side. Vena his family history was so sublime, but still he was so cruel. What is the reason behind it? Actually, Vena inherited his cruel nature from his mother Sunita. There is a story behind it. I never got the answer from Srimad Bhagavatam why Vena was so cruel. It is not depicted in Bhagavatam, but it is depicted in Padma Puran. A very great devotee of Srila Prabhupada, His Grace Bhurijan Das Prabhu. You have perhaps heard his name. Bhurijan Das Prabhu has written part of Srimad Bhagavatam in English version. And he wrote this reason from Padma Puran in his book. What is the reason? The reason is Sunita, the daughter of Yomraj, actually in her childhood times, Sunita used to imitate his grandfather, his father. Yomraj has so power, very powerful. He is personification of death. And Sunita considered herself to be very powerful like her father. One day, Sunita went to the forest for playing. And at that forest, there was a very handsome Gandharva, namely Susanko. Susanko was performing there some penances to satisfy goddess Saraswati. You know, the Gandharva and the Apsara. Gandharvas, they are very expert for singing, and the Apsaras, they are very expert for dancing. So both Gandharva and Apsara, they used to satisfy goddess Saraswati, because goddess Saraswati is the in charge of the department of knowledge, department of dancing, department of singing, and so on. So Susanko, he was performing some penances, and Sunita began to disturb him, began to annoy him. But Susanko tolerates this disturbance from Sunita. After all, Sunita was a lady and daughter of Yomraj. So Susanko tried to tolerate all the disturbance caused by Sunita. But Sunita became angry without receiving any responses from Susanko. And Sunita one day struck Susanko. Susanko was very annoyed with her. And his limit of tolerance was crossed. Then Susanko resolved to curse Sunita. But Sunita was a lady, so according to the custom, Susanko did not curse directly to Sunita, but please so Susanko cursed Sunita in this way that when you would got a child, then that child will be very cruel, very disrespectful, and very irreligious. So according to the curse of Susanka, Ben got this abominable nature. This was the mystery. Anyway, his father Anga was very unfortunate for having a cruel son and a wife like Sunita. At the same time, Anga was very fortunate also, because actually it was God's arrangement. As Anga was a very great devotee of God, so for those devotees, God used to arrange something special. It is very tough to get rid of the entanglement of family chain. It is very tough. But God made such a special arrangement that Anga very easily was free from the entanglement of his family life. And one day at the midnight, Anga left his cruel son. He left his unlucky wife and the whole kingdom. He left his house and went to the deep forest for practicing devotional service very diligently. So King Anga accepted his misfortune as a special fortune. This is the symbol, this is the characteristic of pure devotee. They accept everything very positively, and they can see the hand of Krishna behind every phenomenon. In this way, they could find out the mercy of the God behind even every unfortunate sin. Same was the case for Srila Prabhupada also. Srila Prabhupada's wife was not a good devotee, and she was not out of the standard. So Srila Prabhupada, having such a wife, was little morose, and he was considering himself very unlucky. But his father, being a pure devotee of Lord, convinced his son Srila Prabhupada that it is the special mercy of Lord upon you. As your wife is not a very good devotee or a very standard one, so you will not be attracted with her. And when time will come, you will very easily leave your family, and then you would take sannyas. So taking sannyas would be very easy for you for this arrangement. And actually, this phenomenon happened in the life of Srila Prabhupada. So when some sorrowful fact, some sorrowful phenomenon would happen in our life, we should accept it very positively, and we should try to find out the merciful hand of Krishna behind every such saddening fact of our life. Anyway, when Anga left the kingdom, the rogues and thieves and miscreants and antisocials, they got flourished. And they started making problems by stealing, robbing, and etc. to the peaceful citizens of the country. So the throne cannot be left empty for a long time. Then the peace and prosperity of the country will be lost. The sages, the spiritual personalities, the Brahmins, they are the natural guardian of the society. Though they are the spiritual persons, generally they stayed away from the political affairs. But in case of emergency, they cannot stay away. And from distant, they cannot see all the barbarism of the anti-socialist. So the sages and Brahmins, they meet one day and they consulted about the kingdom. The throne was empty, and King Anga's son, Vena, he was not at all suitable and eligible to be the king. But what could be done? There is no better alternative for the Brahmins. So the Brahmins and the sages, they took a risk. They enthroned King Vena as the ruler of the whole world. And the sages hoped that after being the king, Vena might change himself. After all, Vena was the grandson of Yomraj, and he was in the lineage of Dhruva Maharaj. So Vena might change himself. He might be more gentle after sitting on the throne. But all their speculations were failed. Vena could not change himself at all. But one thing happened, as the people knew very well about the cruelty of Vena. So as soon as Vena enthroned all the rogues and thieves, they were vanished. All the criminal activities were stopped. But after sitting on the throne, Vena announced that from now onwards, no spiritual practices will be allowed. Just consider. Grandson of Mahajan Yomraj, he is announcing that he will not tolerate any sacrifice, any penances, any spiritual activity in his kingdom. And what Vena did, it is being carried out by today's atheistic governments. So the Prabhupada wrote that the world situation is so tense that any moment the governments would announce that every religious activities should be stopped. Any day it may come. These declarations may come. Srila Prabhupada afraid of it. He apprehended it actually. But in reality, the function of a government, so-called secular government means the government will observe whether all the citizens are executing their religious practices or not. Many citizens, they may belong to many spiritual category, maybe Hindu, maybe Muslim, maybe Christian. But the duty of the secular government is to observe whether each people are executing his own religion. When every people would follow the religious principle, then the happiness and prosperity will come for sure. Vena ignored his duty in this sense, and he declared that he would not tolerate any spiritual activity at his kingdom. And he used to insult the saintly personalities. Why? Why Vena acted like this? Vena actually wanted to be worshipped by his people. Vena was so envious to God and to demigod also that he wanted to be worshipped by all the people. So he used to insult the saintly personalities. Actually, all the demoniac king, they were same in nature. Ravan, Hiranyakashipu, Kongso. There are many examples of demoniac kings who wanted to be worshipped by lakh and crore of people, and who actually worshipped the god was punished severely by these demoniac kings. And this insultation of saintly person, it was the root cause of their falling down. In history, there are immense of examples. Ravan insulted Bibhisar and Sita. Duryodhan insulted Vidura. And as a result, their whole family were ruined. This is the effect of offense to Vaishnava. And in Bangladesh also, we are seeing the saintly personalities are being insulted, and they are actually detained illegally in jail without any proper judgment. And one day, these demoniac rulers will be ruined for sure, today or tomorrow. It will happen. Krishna will make it. Now, according to the Vedic civilization, the king used to accept the instructions of Brahmins and great sages like Bas, like Parasar, like Narad, etc. We have seen that King Yudhishthir, King Lord Ramchandra, they used to accept the valuable instructions of great sages. And in this way, they used to govern their kingdom. So the people were very happy and prosperous by the mercy of the God. This was actually the Vedic civilization. To abide by the rules and regulations imposed by the God. Dharmam tu saksat bhagavat pranitam. This is actual dharma. accepting the instructions. This is dharma. But Vena rejected the injunctions of the scriptures. And the sages, the Brahmins, they were actually very much afraid of incurring sinful reactions of King Vena. Why? Sinful activities were done by King Vena, then why the sages were afraid for those sinful reactions? Because it was they who actually enthroned Vena. So the sages were thinking that we have selected Vena to be the king of the whole world. And he is so sinful that perhaps we would have to suffer for his sinful activities. Because we had elected Vena to be the king. So he could not ignore our responsibility in this matter. So the sages again united. They came to Lord Vena. They tried to pacify him and to correct him. The sages told King Vena in very sweet voice, very peacefully, very calmly, they told, "Dear king, we have, we have come to give you some good advices. Please listen to us very carefully. If you hear our words and accept our words, then your lifespan, opulences, strength, and reputation will increase more and more." Then the sages explain the proper duty of a king and requested Vena to avoid hampering his citizens' spiritual activities. They said if their spiritual life is spoiled because of your activities, you will certainly fall down from your opulent and royal throne. So, dear king, be very careful. Don't make your citizens to be irreligious, and you have to suffer for that. In this way, that the sages, the team of the sages, tried to pacify King Vena. And what is the result? The result was that King Vena he replied very sharply to the sages. He said that you all are as inexperienced as small child. You are as foolish as an unchaste wife. King Vena challenged the sages that why all of you are worshipping demigods when I am present in front of you. I am the supreme king. I am the supreme personality of Godhead. Vena announced himself to be the god of the king, actually. How envious he was. How audacity. I am maintaining all of you. I am providing you food and clothes and everything. So why you are worshipping demigods? From now on, now onwards, start worshipping me, and we will be benefited more and more. Vena invited the sages to accept his instruction instead of receiving their instructions. The mistake Vena did, that he uh, found himself to be the god. Rather, actually, according to the Shastra, the king is supposed to be the servant of the god, the representative of the god. But Vena misinterpreted the Shastra, and instead of being the servant of the god, he declared himself to be the god. And Vena insulted all the sages very severely with sharp words. Srila Prabhupada told that there are many demons nowadays who are thinking of themselves as the supreme. This is all due to false pride. False pride. King Vena developed the demoniac mentality. And nowadays, there are King Vena every hook and corner of the world. Many instances of King Vena you can find. Even King Vena is within our house. King Vena may be inside our house, maybe outside of our house. King Vena and his parampara, they are everywhere in the world. And all of them want to be worshipped by others. And they are thinking themselves as God. All the very exalted devotees, so they were insulted by Vena. Although the sages spoke very humbly, but Vena was unwilling to hear their message. So they were very broken-hearted actually. And when they heard the blasphemous words of Vena to the supreme God, the spiritual persons like Brahmins and sages, they condemned Vena and they decided to kill Vena. Just see the power of the Brahmin. The king was under the control of Brahmin. King was not the supreme person. According to the Vedic literature, king was guided by the Brahmin, exalted persons. Brahmin can enthrone a king as well. They can dethrone a king. They can encourage a king, and also they can even kill the king by Brahmosap, not by some weapons. For some extreme cases, when it was very necessary, the Brahmins just chanted some mantra and the king died. In this case also, the sages decided to kill the king because Vena was then the most dreadful and sinful persons. And the sages apprehended that if Vena lived, he would certainly turn the whole world into ashes. Though the sages were very tolerant, but still they decided to kill Vena. From this phenomena, we can consider how oppressor was King Vena actually. Now, King Vena died due to the curse of the sages. And again, the throne was empty. We have earlierly said that the throne cannot be left empty for a long time because all the rogues and thieves, they will be flourished and start various antisocial activities like stealing and etc. to the innocent citizens. So again, the sages they decided to charm the body of the Vena for producing a good son. Vena has no son. So who will be the next king? The sages decided to charm the body. Firstly, they charmed the thigh of the Vena, upper portion of the leg. They pronounced certain mantra with desired spiritual practice, and they charmed the upper portion of the leg of Vena, and a very ugly and cruel person appeared called Nisad. And all the sins of the Vena came out from his body and entered into the body of Nisad. In this way, the body of Vena was totally free of all sins, because all sins then entered into the body of Nisad. And Nisad was instructed to go to the forest and remain there, because he was so cruel and uncivilized that he would not be allowed to be in the society, to remain in the civilized society. So Nisad went to the forest and there was ancestor of Nishad. Until now, the parampara of Nishad is going on. Anyway, after appearing Nishad and after sending him to the forest, the sages again chant the right hand of the Vena. And from this churning, two persons appeared. One was Prithu. Prithu was the incarnation of Vishnu, and another was Orchi. Orchi was the incarnation of Lakshmi. So Prithu and Orchi appeared from the churning of the right hand of King Vena. The sages were very happy for appearance of Prithu, and they enthroned Prithu as the king of the whole world. And what was the fate of Vena? Vena went to the hellish planets and he suffered there very severely for a long time. Then Vena got rebirth in Earth planet in a very low class family with leprosy. So though he got a human birth, but still he was suffering from leprosy. Why he was suffering? Because he had insulted the sages. And the sages cursed him. But actually, the sages were so great that their curses actually become one day as benediction. We have already heard about the Narad Muni's curse to Monigrib and Nalakuber. Can you remember? Damodar Astakam. So Narad Muni cursed them, but actually this curse turned into the benediction. They got the darshan of Krishna face to face, and they were liberated by Krishna. And here also the king Vena, he was cursed by the sages, but Narad Muni told Prithu that, do you know, your father, he got a human body after his death, and he is suffering from leprosy for long days. So what is your duty as the son of the Vena? Prithu understood his duty. He found out Vena and he took Vena with him to Kurukshetra. In Kurukshetra, there is a pond, namely Prithu Kunda. So Prithu made his father to bath at the water of the Prithu Kunda. After bathing, Vena was free from all sins. and he was cured. So Prithu Maharaj in this way established the truth that it is the duty of the son to rescue his father or forefather. The Bengali term of son is putra. What is the meaning of putra? From the word put, putro came. And what is the meaning of put? Put is actually a group of planets, hellish planets, where the sinful persons are tortured severely. Those groups of planets are called Put. And the duty of Putra is to rescue his father or forefather, whatever it may be, from that Put planet. And Prithu did it. And this is the duty of all of us to rescue our forefathers from their sinful activities. Okay, so this is the story of King Vena, and it is described in Bhagavatam 4th canto, 13th chapter and 14th chapter. So in short, we actually describe the 2 chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam. Have you any questions? Then please raise your hand. Okay, Shreyasi Mataji, unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. Prabhuji, can you repeat what did Sunita do to Susanko so that he cursed her?
Sunita, please repeat your question.
What did Sunita do to Susanko that he cursed Sunita?
Sunita annoyed him, and Sunita actually beat him. Okay. For that reason, actually, Susank tried to tolerate her disturbance. But everyone has a limit of tolerance, isn't it? Sunita actually crossed the limit. So he decided to curse Sunita. But Sunita was a lady, so according to the etiquette, he actually cursed the future son of Sunita. In this way, Beno was so irreligious and so cruel and disrespectful as well. Okay? Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. And Prabhuji, you said that Anga was not really a good person in his previous life. So he took birth as a king in the next life. So that thing.
Ango,
Anga was not a good person in his previous life, but he still took birth as a king in his next life.
no, I have not told it that Ongo was not very good person in previous life. I have told that Ongo did some sinful activities. Not that during the throughout the whole life he was very sinful. Anyone may commit some sinful activities. It was just like an accident. Accidentally, he committed it. but he was not a sinful person throughout his life. But as by some accident he committed some mischiefs, as a result he had no son in his next life. Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhu, please unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dhanyavad Pranam. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Prabhu, you were saying that when King Vena took the throne, all the criminal activities had stopped. So my question is that when Vena was already into criminal activities and when he took the throne, so all the criminals would have gotten a free hand. So why did the criminal activities stop when Vena took the throne?
Actually, Vena was not criminal. He was a very greedy person. In that sense, he wanted to be worshipped by all the people. He had a tremendous false ego. But he was not a thief. He was not an oppressor to the people. He wanted the people to worship him. That's all. So when he enthroned, the thieves and the rogues, they realized that King Vena is so cruel that he would punish them very severely. So they actually stopped their criminal activities. So Vena was not criminal like thieves, but he had a very high ego and desire to be worshipped by all the Brahmins and all the people. Okay. Okay. So now we shall end our program by Vaishnava Mantra. And please notice the group. We shall serve the notice when our next English class will be started at the end of February or at the third week of February. So we shall serve notice in this English group. Please follow the group. Mancha kalpatarubhasya kripa sindubhya evacha putitanang pavanebhya vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada.